This is the most recent article that I wrote for Vice. I did this. I don't know why. I don't know if you know this, but the Strathmore Stampede has a running of the bulls. So I ran, and then I wrote this article on it. The Strathmore Stampede hosts Canada's only running of the bulls, but it's hardly an import of the centuries-old Spanish tradition from Pamplona. Strathmore's version doesn't retain the format, cultural depth, or even the same name. Instead, running with the bulls repurposes the concept into a ludicrous amateur rodeo sideshow. Strathmore doesn't have any narrow, historic streets, so they make do with their chuck wagon track. 80 participants frantically run from a horde of rampaging bulls to get the spectators' blood pumping for the chucks. And the gutsiest runner, judged on style, which basically comes down to challenging the animals like some kind of idiot gladiator, wins $1,000 cash. That's it. Obviously, I had to participate, and when I pitched running with the bulls to Vice, I had only heard about it. Later, I looked it up on YouTube. The most popular result is called "Man Gets Trampled While Running with the Bulls at Strathmore Stampede." After that, I started muttering "fuck" under my breath whenever I thought about the stupid event I stupidly volunteered to cover. Now seems like a good time to mention that I wrote part of this article while waiting to have my spine x-rayed. I went to Strathmore early to interview the other bull runners while they registered. The registration booth was probably better described as a sign-up shed, and their sign was a piece of scrap cardboard that they had crudely scrawled with Sharpie. Next to it, home-printed rules were duct-taped to the wall. Rule number 6, if you get knocked down and are still conscious, roll under the fence so you don't trip the other runners. Fuck. Potential runners lined up as soon as the booth opened. A young-looking guy holding an infant asked, "Were there any injuries yesterday?" The sign-up shed lady responded, "Yeah, we had a broken nose, a broken hand, and a split head." The young guy handed his baby to his girlfriend with a laugh and signed his waiver. The people signing up were a predictable combination of young thrill seekers and mulleted yokels with knives on their belts. Many had done the run before. Some had even done the run during the previous day, including a 45-year-old truck driver named Ted. Even though he was chubbier than all of the others, this was his third year participating in the run, and I figured if Ted could do it, I definitely could. I sidled over to spark up a conversation. "If you're signing up again, you must have made it through without any major injuries." "Well, last year I got ran over." Fuck. I talked to more people, and it became clear that no one actually cared about the prize. They were just doing it to do it. Most of them were just after the thrill. Rebecca and Hannah, Hooters waitresses from Calgary, said that it was, quote, "a bucket list thing. You know." I got the sense that if the prize wasn't on the table, the exact same people would have signed up. I ran into a group of 5 Australian guys who had signed up earlier, but I ran into them in the beer garden, and I asked them why they were participating. "We're dickheads," one of them said, with a shrug, before finishing an entire beer in one drink. The lady from the sign-up shed spotted us from the other side of the beer garden fence and said, "Hey, you guys aren't supposed to be drinking." He said, "You said we couldn't be drunk. We can have at least 5 more." Pardon my terrible accent. Half an hour before start time, we met at the gate wearing the numbered pink t-shirts that they gave us when we signed up. The Aussies and a few others were wearing ridiculous costumes. One was a Ninja Turtle. A guy was in a full neon orange leisure suit. Another man was dressed in a bull mascot with boxing gloves. Through the crowd, I saw the giraffe for the first time. last year's famed winner. The organizer gave us a safety speech that was somehow both troubling and unhelpful. We waited while a group of First Nations singers did a rendition of O Canada, and then we ran out onto the track. Fuck. Stupid iPad. Damn technology. There we go. Sunburned drunks hooted and hollered from sold-out grandstands. Seasoned rodeo announcer and guest judges stood atop a hydraulic lift in the middle of the track. The announcer gave a short introduction, spending nearly as much time commenting on the Hooters waitress's appearance as I did interviewing them. He explained that there would be 3 separate waves of bulls, the bulls increasing in size and experience with each wave. A horn sounded. Fuck, 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 fuck. A gate opened and 5 bulls ambled out. Men on horseback whipped the bulls until they were running at a terrible speed. My strategy was to run way ahead of the bulls, keeping as much distance between us as possible. I was on the opposite side of the course when the bulls caught up with the first of the runners. The crowd shrieked with excitement. I stopped to look. A runner soared backwards through the air. Before he even hit the ground, I knew it was Ted. He landed hard and rolled as the bulls trampled him. 2 for 2, I guess. I sprinted to get around to where Ted was, and he tried to stand, but he collapsed. A couple runners dragged him over to the fence. Medics and runners struggled to help him over. The announcer jeered, "I don't think he's gonna fit through those bars, boys." I wanted to stop and help, but the bulls were gaining on me. As I ran past, I saw that the medics had already started cutting Ted's pant leg open.
Oh, God.
His leg was blue and bloated, like it had washed up on the beach after a boating accident. The bulls were closing the gap. A lot of runners were jumping the fence, and it was starting to tip. I knew if I tried to go over, I might pull the fence down on all of us. The bulls rounded the corner. Fuck! I put my foot on the second rung of the fence, grabbed the top bar, and jumped straight up. Pushing on the top bar, I got my body as high and horizontal as I could, like a push-up over nothing. A bull ran right underneath me, its vicious horns passing below my stomach. It was the coolest thing I've ever done. Another horn sounded. The bulls were funneled to the exit. I had survived the first wave. The announcer informed everyone that the second wave would be delayed until we could get an ambulance in. I ran over to check on Ted. The medics were trying to sit him up, but he went into shock and melted in their hands. The ambulance, a flatbed John Deere vehicle, putted out, and they prepped him for transport. In the meantime, a few of the runners used the downtime to start doing flips for the crowd. A shirtless guy with a ponytail stuck a front flip. Another guy strung together a cartwheel and a back handspring. These flailing maneuvers looked less like traditional gymnastics and more like a series of escalating drunken dares. The audience ate it up. The ambulance drove by with poor Ted on the flatbed, passed out and strapped to a backboard. The announcer had a few parting words for Ted. I will say one thing about that guy. He needs to hit a tanning booth. The audience belly laughed at the broken, unconscious body of their fellow human being. I wondered for a moment, who were the real monsters? The bulls? Or the audience that callously, cynically paid to see people endanger themselves for the amusement of a horn sounded, 4 angry bulls charged out from the gate. The bulls are the monsters! It was the bulls. I ran as goddamn fast as I goddamn could. I stayed ahead of them for a lap. One of the lunatic bulls unexpectedly turned on the outrider's horse, pinning it against the fence. It was awful. The rider whipped the bull until it relented. It turned and started running the opposite direction, straight towards me. I froze. I was about to head for the fence when a shock of pain coursed through my back. Had a runner elbowed me while trying to pass? Wrong. It was the other bulls, stampeding behind me. One of their horns had belted me across the lower back. I leapt over the fence to assess the damage. It had also hit one of my elbows at the same time, but it seemed okay. My back didn't feel too bad, but that could have been because I had adrenaline screaming through my body. I waited for the horn and jumped back onto the track. It occurred to me that if the bullet hit me from a slightly different angle, I could have died or been paralyzed. I considered quitting. Too late, a final horn sounded. The third wave only had 2 bulls, because it only needed 2 bulls. They were grotesque. Their bulging muscles looked like they were trying to escape from the hateful creatures. This was not scary in a fun way. With just 2 bulls, I could more easily keep track of them, so I kept the half-track between us until the clock ran out. The giraffe, a man who clearly has nothing to live for, had challenged the bulls in every wave. In the third wave, he literally grabbed a bull by the horns and backed it into a corner. He was unanimously voted the winner. The first 2-time winner in the 11-year history of the event. As I left the track, one of the spectators called out to me. He held up a finger and a thumb about an inch apart and said, "This close, boy." For the next few days, I felt my back getting stiffer and stiffer. It didn't look bad, but I got to the point where I could barely move. Finally, I had to leave work early to go to the ER. There was no possible way to explain this injury to a medical professional without sounding like a total idiot. Nothing showed up on the x-ray, of course. Still hurts, though. Fuck.